course, in the lead up to the debate, so much can change and no party should be taking anything for granted.
Okay, joining us this week, Conservative strategist Colin Aitchison, NDP strategist Cheryl Oates, and Liberal strategist Jessie Chahal. All right, we're at the halfway mark of this campaign, if you can believe it, and almost all the polls are suggesting the Liberals have a healthy lead. The numbers appear to be settling. Colin, what are the Conservatives doing wrong?
Well, I'm not sure if they're doing anything wrong, Rob. There's still a lot of runway left. Well, I'm sure the campaign wishes the polls were higher. I hate to use a cliche, but the only poll that really matters is on election day, and we've seen that the Conservatives do have a really good ground game. But there's a lot of opportunities for things to change still in their momentum and in their favor moving forward. And one key part I'm looking at is the debates. Mark Carney has really shown early on in the campaign that he can kind of crack under pressure when he's being questioned. We saw that a lot with media in the very early days. He has cleaned that up, but Pierre Poilievre is going to be a lot tougher on Mark than I think a lot of the journalists have been. And it's going to be a lot more direct. It's going to be a lot more personal, and it's going to be a very difficult situation on the English side. So will Mark Carney be able to hold his own? Will he be able to crack under pressure? And that's something that I think the Conservatives are going to be looking for and using that as an opportunity. There's also the French debates, and I think the Bloc Québécois and the Conservatives are going to be looking to capitalize on Mark Carney's inexperience in debating in French, his lack of fluent control of the language, and there's an opportunity for both those parties to really gain momentum there as well. So long way to go. I'm sure it's not where the Conservatives wanted to be, but I don't think it's over.
Okay. No surprise, Colin doesn't want to talk about Pierre Poilievre could be doing better. Cheryl, I'll put it to you. I mean, it is worth continuing to point out, as we have been, that the Conservative polling numbers, they have been holding steady now for weeks. So they're not in the lead, but they're not losing those numbers. The CBC poll tracker, which aggregates all the public polls, has them sitting at 37% support. And that is 3 points more than the party got in the last federal election. Still, I wonder, Cheryl, could that simply be that the CPC has peaked here and, can't expect to build no matter what Pierre Poilievre does?
Well, truthfully, like the longer we go in this campaign, the more vote for every party shores up. You've seen, I mean, the Conservatives base and their supporters have always been quite dedicated, unwilling to move their vote. We're starting to see that happen for the Liberals as well. So I think most parties are sort of reaching their peak at this moment. I mean, we're always going to be left with a group of undecided voters in Canada who will just choose to stay home. But I think Colin's right. Like, of course, in the lead up to the debate, so much can change and no party should be taking anything for granted. We know that people pay a ton of attention when the writ drops. And then this is sort of like the lull where everyone would like to forget that there's an election going on right now. That has been very, very hard to do given what's going on with the Americans and the Trump administration right now. But everyone tunes back in during the debate. And whether that's you actually watching the debate or whether it's watching the clips, people pay attention to again during the debate and people really lock in their vote after the debate. And there's a ton of risk for Mark Carney, just as Colin has said. That risk equally exists for Pierre Poilievre, who has not really had to stand up to a lot of scrutiny because he's not really taking reporter questions. And then, of course, for the other parties, it's how to remain relevant, how to keep their incumbents, how to, leave something for voters to take away with on the debate stage. So I agree, tons still left to move in this debate, in this campaign.
Let's stay with the main party. So, Jessie, if Poilievre can't really build more of a lead, Carney would have to blow his in order for things to change dramatically. That would likely mean losing that soft NDP support that has moved into the Liberal camp. Where does the danger lie for your leader right now in your mind? Is it the debates? Is it how freely he's taking these questions and often not doing a great job in answering them?
I think the danger that lies for all parties and all leaders at this point of the campaign is not focusing on the fundamentals. So that includes not putting forward your value proposition to voters on why you feel you're the best candidate to lead the country through these extremely volatile times, but also at the same time, internally not focusing on the fundamentals of campaigning, not making sure that your candidates are out there knocking on doors, connecting with constituents and voters and IDing their vote. And as of right now, the Liberal Party is ensuring that they're not getting complacent at this point in time. Leaders out there getting more and more comfortable day in, day out. He was just here in Calgary a few days ago and was extremely comfortable in front of an audience of north of 2,500 people, with another 500 to 1,000 outside, and taking questions from people that were sharing unsolicited questions from the audience, but being very comfortable in that space. Also very comfortable in front of the media and illustrating his prime ministerial chops.
Let me stay with you for a
that,
second, Jessie. Sorry to interrupt, but we were just looking at some pictures of that rally in Calgary here, and it brings to mind that based on my conversations with you, you really think there's an opportunity to pick up here in Calgary. Realistically, how many seats are you aiming to pick up in our city? Right now, your relative, George Chahal, has the only Liberal seat.
Yeah, so in addition to MP Chahal, who's running out of Calgary McKnight, his existing riding got split into two, Calgary McKnight and Calgary Skyview. There's 2 to 3 campaigns that are in play. Going back to the rally that you just alluded to, that rally was reminiscent of the 2015 campaign, where on the eve of the election night, we had rallies like that taking place in Calgary, Edmonton, and many other parts across Western Canada. So if you'll remember that campaign, we were able to, the Liberal Party was able to win four ridings, which was unprecedented for the party at the time. And so right now you have campaigns in Calgary Centre, Calgary Confederation, and Calgary Skyview that are extremely close. You have candidates in each of those ridings that have a long history of grassroots connection, political stalwarts like Corey Hogan and Lindsay Linau running as well.
Corey Hogan, never heard of him.
Yeah, so as of right now, I would say that the party feels that you have, in addition to Calgary McKnight, three ridings that are in play.
Okay, and to be clear, Corey Hogan, former panelist here on the program, so I'm just making light of that. And also to be clear, that 4-seat pickup you're talking about in 2015 wasn't in Calgary, is a split between Edmonton and Calgary. So Colin, Carney, when he was in town here, he had a tailor-made message for Calgarians. He was talking about making Canada an energy superpower and speeding up project reviews. I don't think a Liberal saying that stuff would be credible to most Albertans in normal times, not in the last 10 years or so, but these are not normal times with the threat of Trump. Do you think people here might be more receptive to his message?
I mean, we'll see. We've seen a lot of shift in the discourse across the country when it comes to Canada's energy sector and looking for opportunities to grow domestically and not rely on the U.S. anymore. I will think, and if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, that part of it included starting a new government office, and I'm not sure how new bureaucracy will result in speed when it comes to project approvals. But look, I think one of the challenges for Mark Carney when it comes to credibility on that with Albertans and with Calgarians is the people around him are the exact same people who implemented policies that industry, the Alberta government, folks within the sector have been criticizing for years. So if he's going to truly say he can unleash Canada's energy sector, both by growing renewable resources, but also doubling down and finding opportunities to enhance the existing sector, he's going to really need to prove that he's not going to be listening to the advice of those around him who over the last 4, 6, 8 years have been introducing policies like the Impact Assessment Act that have received a lot of criticisms, and that he's willing to chart a new path forward that will help actually unleash that sector. And I think it might have sounded nice to his base, and it might have sounded nice to the Liberals that were showing up. I'm sure there's a lot of question marks from Calgarians who have seen the impacts of Justin Trudeau's policies over the past few years.
Cheryl, you were at Rachel Notley's side when she got Justin Trudeau on board with the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, but you don't hear many Albertans singing Trudeau's praises for that. They mostly point to his environmental policies and roadblocks that they perceived held up energy expansion. Has all that poisoned the well for Carney, or do you think he can write a new chapter?
No, I absolutely think he can write a new chapter. And I think, it's easy to stand up like Pierre Poilievre is doing and say, we're going to build projects, we're going to build pipelines, we're going to do it in every direction, we're going to do it super fast. But what you've seen from the Liberals is Mark Carney rolling out an actual plan, and they're not really interesting details. But if you're working in the industry and you've been held up by regulation, for example, in the past, and you look at the plan that Mark Carney has laid out, it's thoughtful and it it looks at specific pieces that would make a difference in terms of building infrastructure in Canada. And I think you're right. Like for the Conservatives that stand up and say, only Conservatives could get this done and Liberals have failed to do this. Well, who's the only Prime Minister in recent memory that we can think of building a major infrastructure project, specifically a pipeline to Tidewater? It's Justin Trudeau in partnership with the Alberta NDP. So personally, I think it's a lot of rhetoric that gets pumped up by Conservative governments. But for people on the ground, I mean, obviously, in some settings, it's resonating. Every single seat in Edmonton is currently in play, according to the polls, and at least 4 seats in Calgary. So that is a pretty major shift from the last election.
Okay, lots of time to talk about that in the weeks ahead, and there is a lot of campaign runway left. Now, if the Liberals do manage to win, Carney is going to continue to have to deal with Danielle Smith. She's not going anywhere anytime soon, and the two of them, as we saw this week, they sparred a little bit through the media, and today Smith had this to say at the Strong and Free conference in Ottawa.
This is a really important election, and I think that Pierre Poilievre, quite frankly, is the one with the credibility to take us there. So if anything you can do to help get him over the finish line, I think that now's the time.
Okay, no surprise there, an endorsement of Pierre Poilievre from Danielle Smith. But what really stood out to me, Jessie, is how restrained she was in front of such a partisan Conservative audience. She didn't take any shots at the Liberals by name or Mark Carney either. That clip was about as political as she got, and it came right at the end of a Q&A. Jessie, could you be taking that as a sign of her maybe reading the writing on the wall and preparing for a Liberal win?
Potentially. I'm sure she's following the polls and, the Prime Minister's events all across the country. I also think that she's reading the writing on the wall, that her actions over the last number of weeks have not been in line with this Team Canada approach that the Prime Minister and the other premiers have taken. It's also alienating a lot of Alberta voters and a lot of people that are concerned that Danielle Smith type government in Ottawa would be something that would not be in the best interest of Canadians. So I think toning down the rhetoric is something that her team internally is probably also has identified. But I also think that the candidate that she just endorsed today, his team has also probably been communicating that it's not been helpful. Her rhetoric and her activities over the last number of weeks. I think today's announcement or endorsement is one that the Liberals will take and receive in positive light. I think that there's a number of different parts of the country and a number of Albertans across the country that are concerned of a Danielle Smith government here in Alberta, and a potential Pierre Poilievre government that's very similar to the Danielle Smith government is something that many Albertans and many Canadians would be concerned about. So,
okay, let's get Colin in on that. Your thoughts on what Jessie had to say about Smith's remarks?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to a lot of conversations we've had, Rob, on your show. Is the Premier has at times struggled to kind of find that delicate balance of speaking to her base while not alienating swing voters, undecideds, other parts of the country. And I think today was actually like an indication that she has found that balance and has struck that. Her messaging hasn't shifted from UCP messaging. We've heard it all before on interprovincial trade barriers, unleashing Canada's energy sector, and the other comments that she made. But I think by kind of taking a step back from the aggressive attacks in the middle of a campaign, it's shown that she has been reading the tea leaves, she has been reading the room, and she does recognize that she had to kind of find that balance and find that tone to give the base of the party, which is what she was speaking to today, a win, hear her championing their message, while also not opening up Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party to attacks by using clips of hers. So I think she found that delicate line that she's been at times potentially struggling to find in the past, and I think it's going to be appreciated by the Conservative Party, and I think it does reduce the amount of opportunities for attack ads that could be run in other parts of the country, highlighting the Premier of Alberta, since Alberta conservatism doesn't always appeal in Ontario or Quebec.
Cheryl, you get the final words. Do you think Danielle Smith is going to be able to resist the temptation and maintain that fine line that Colin suggests she's now walking?
Well, history would suggest not, but watching today, like I watched her speech, I thought she was very careful. She was, her words were careful, her topics were careful. I think she was, just like everyone else in this panel has said, choosing her words in a way that would not hurt the Conservatives in the way that that she has previously said have been weaponized against them. And she walked a delicate line on that stage. She never said the Liberals by name. She didn't talk about Mark Carney by name. And almost, at the end, when she finally did endorse Pierre Poilievre, it was almost like, well, I guess I should throw this in there. So I guess, we can all be optimistic and hopeful that this is a new diplomatic leaf that Danielle Smith has now turned over.
For now. All right. Good stuff, all three of you, Jessie, Cheryl, Colin. Thanks so much for this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.